Hi, Gemini Sun and Rising. Welcome to your December 2020 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So December has several transits that are in the 7th house of committed partnership. And the significance of this is increased because on the 30th of November, which at the time of this recording is actually a few days in the future, there is a lunar eclipse in your sign. And a lunar eclipse is a powerful full moon. At the time of any full moon, the sun and moon are opposing one another. So because this lunar eclipse that I'm referring to on November 30th is at 8 degrees of Gemini, the sun is at 8 degrees of Sag, and it's in the 7th house of committed partnership where the South Node is transiting. So there's also this influence from the past, you could even talk about past lives where certain behavioral patterns may be rearing their ugly head. Or, it doesn't have to be ugly. It could just be that it is like a well-worn pattern when it comes to relationship issues. And you are seeing the light because the lunar eclipse is actually in the 1st house. So that is the house of the self. And you're becoming aware of what your needs are. And contrasting that to the relationship and seeing what the other person, if the other person is making demands, you can decide whether or not they fit into your life. And it's really, having the lunar eclipse in the 1st house can be very enlightening when it comes to being able to kind of shed an old skin. These areas of the house of the self and the house of the other are going to be a story throughout 2021. So this is not something that is just a one-time shot. This is going to continue because the eclipses are occurring in these areas. I do have to say, however, that you have to take your degree of Gemini Sun or Rising into consideration because it can really affect the timing and, what your house even looks like. Your 1st house may be very small and you might have a bigger 2nd house and 2nd and 8th houses. And but in general, we can look at these two areas as great areas of transformation for you. And so you come into the month of December, the day after that lunar eclipse in your sign, and it's like you are maybe letting something go, but it's not something that you might just be saying, okay, this is something I let go. Something may be ending for you, a chapter in your life. And you have to adjust, but you also have to take into account another person. So relationships may figure in significantly in December, but it's always going to be in the context of your own needs and your own time in this particular juncture of your life. Like, does this relationship fit into that? Is this relationship something that is a season of your life, or is it something that you can see lasting for the whole of your life? And another thing too is you might be saying, well, I'm not even in a relationship and I'm not sure I want to be. And what that would mean in your case is perhaps clients. Seventh house can be one-on-one relationships. Even close friendships could fall into this category. But in the terms of more concentrated effort, Gemini is kind of like a butterfly that flits from flower to flower. And you may be more comfortable keeping your relationships on a more surface level. And I'm being, I'm broad brushing. I'm not, trying to act like all of you are the same, because you're not. You're individuals. But for some of you, you may just enjoy social interaction and find it very tedious to deal with all of the heavy demands that people can place on others in the name of, love or friendship even. And so you may like to be in large groups. You may feel more comfortable, but one-on-one may feel a bit overwhelming. And yet this may be the time when you start to develop that area more and more. And it could even have, like I said, like a business feel to it, because it could be clients. And this could be very good for clients. And also the seventh house could be some legal affair, like a lawsuit or what have you, or like some legal agreement that you're coming to terms with. On the first of the month, Mercury goes into Sagittarius. So last month, you had to deal with, well, actually, it's more like in October you had to deal with Mercury retrograde. Mercury went direct in early November, and Mercury is your ruler, so it has a greater impact on your life, or it has a greater importance on your life. So where Mercury transits can be very important to you. And during that retrograde, it was going from the 6th house to the 5th house, from Scorpio to Libra. And now it has gone out of Scorpio into Sagittarius. So there may have been some kind of situation involving the workplace with Mercury retrograding in that area. And now, so it went back into your 5th house, which for some people can be the business that they own. So if you had, had something on the side and you were really rethinking working for others, you may be contacting potential clients and being quite proactive about that when Mercury goes into your 7th house. This can also be good for signing any kind of legal contracts that may have been due to past litigation or whatever, type of legal agreement that you had to come to terms with. Talking about marriage, making wedding plans if you are in that position. That lunar eclipse in your sign may have been a wake-up call to you to look at how you've been acting, because perhaps a person in your life was getting fed up with your inability to settle down, and maybe you're making wedding plans or planning to move in with somebody. On the 14th, we have a solar eclipse at 23 degrees of Sag in that sector. So this can bring about some, positive forward movement when it comes to committed relationships, one-on-one relationships. If you have clients, this could be like, multiplying, be fruitful and multiply your client base. Just very good for these kinds of matters. This is a powerful new moon, so it can plant new seeds that connect with, clientele and also a significant other. The very next day, we have Venus going into Sagittarius in that 7th house. So that's very romantic. And that is also, Venus can bring money when it goes into a particular house. It can also bring harmony. So, and romance. So what a perfect house. Venus rules the 7th house. So that can be very beneficial for somebody who is looking to have harmony with their partner. That can be a very romantic time for the next 3.5 weeks. On the 17th, we're starting to get into this event that, as people have been calling it, where Jupiter and Saturn align. Saturn actually enters Aquarius first. Saturn has already been briefly in Aquarius earlier in the year. So this is for you, the 9th house. I'm not sure if I have completed that Jupiter-Saturn in-depth look at how it's going to affect you in the 9th house. But you can check my channel for that, because I did put out, I think, 8 so far. So I have 4 more to go. And you can always check back if I haven't done yours. I haven't been doing those for a few weeks now, and I got to get back into that. So just briefly, Saturn in the 9th house can be, sometimes it can be a test. I have a late degree Taurus rising, so some of these are affecting me in the same way. And I can't wait for Saturn to go into the 10th house, because it rules the 10th house. But in the 9th house, I think it's a little bit awkward because the 9th house in the universal chart is ruled by Sag, and its ruler is Jupiter. So just like Jupiter, Jupiter being in Capricorn for the past year has been a little bit awkward and not as copacetic or aligned as Jupiter would be if it was in its own sign, Sagittarius or Leo, something that is much more its cup of tea. I think that Jupiter will be a breath of fresh air in Aquarius, because Jupiter is expansive and Aquarius is very into freedom and forward moving, or like ahead of its time, futuristic. So there is some kind of like connection there. And so Saturn in Aquarius in that 9th house may translate to some sort of discipline around religion. And that can also include studying religion, whether you're doing so at university or studying to be a yoga teacher. Saturn, I think, I haven't read this, but it makes sense that Saturn in the 9th house could be traveling for your career, because Saturn can be, Saturn rules a career sector, and the 9th house rules long distance travel. But I'm sure there are interpretations that suggest that Saturn in the 9th can keep you from traveling, that you have some obstacles to traveling long distance. I don't see Saturn as just a complete impasse. I see Saturn as wanting people to be less frivolous, wasteful, whether it's of actual physical resources or of time, like time wasters. In the 9th house, if you're talking about long distance travel, Gemini is a bit of a vagabond. Gemini is the opposite sign of Sagittarius, and Gemini, you rule the 3rd house, which is the house of the local area. So you like to be out and about, and here and there and everywhere. Written by a Gemini, Paul McCartney. But the truth is that especially if you have planets in Sag, or ninth house placements, especially, but just in general, it would totally be right up your alley to travel, especially if you were learning. If you're studying abroad, or if you're taking yoga training and you are doing it in a far-flung location like Bali, or some other, like India, that might be something that is irresistible to you, because you know that you are learning, and learning is very important for you. So, for instance, I don't see the typical Gemini person being attracted to going on a cruise, unless they could, go into the port and then visit the when they go to a port. Sometimes they allow them to go to the nearest city for the day, or for a couple of days, and then you can see the local sites. But some people apparently, just enjoy cruises because they can, I don't know, play shuffleboard. I don't know. Maybe I watched too much Love Boat when I was a kid. But anyway, so you might be doing some kind of something, but that has a serious angle if you are traveling, or that you are having even a test of faith. And like I said, I've been having this in my ninth house. It hasn't been too pleasant for me. Maybe because, there's other things going on, obviously, in our society right now. So maybe that is really the bigger picture, or the bigger part of this. But what I would say about it is, if you have a belief system and some event happens that tests that belief, it doesn't mean that you throw in the towel. That is the time when your belief system is truly put to the test. And if you are steadfast, you can see it through. I really feel like I have gone through the fire in my own case, and maybe, it will barely register for you. I'm just trying to encourage you to utilize what Saturn represents in this house, and perhaps create some kind of discipline that is connected to spirituality, or the other thing that this could be, and that could include, training for some kind of a job, like becoming a yoga teacher, for instance. But this is a house of publishing, and so getting established with that, if you are a writer, certainly could be the case. On the 19th, a couple of days after that, Jupiter goes into the same sign, Aquarius. And Jupiter in the ninth house can give you multiple publishing opportunities. Maybe you're more prolific. I look at Sagittarius and its house, the ninth house, just like the third house, your house, as being writing areas, since it is connected to publishing. So, not if you are somebody who dreams of finishing your book, that you don't keep postponing it, because this really is an opportune time. And that might be the theme for you in 2021, is either some kind of academic work, or writing and publishing your book. Jupiter in the ninth house can make you benefit from people who are foreigners. So, and also expand your territory. So you might, in fact, be traveling long distance, maybe for pleasure, but very likely for business with Saturn there. On the 20th, Mercury goes into Capricorn, and this is your 8th house. And this is a house that we could associate with spirituality as well. It is the house of the occult. And believe it or not, astrology and the tarot are lumped into this area. The occult meaning hidden knowledge, so that could include other things as well. I never knew astrology and the tarot to be hidden, but I'll just go along with the program. But this can be the secrets of the universe. Mercury is your mind, so in the 8th house, it becomes very like a detective. You might be into the conspiracy theories, really getting caught up in that, and it's very intriguing for you. This could be having a heart-to-heart with somebody where you're really just laying it all on the line and telling them how you really feel. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a romantic thing, though, where you've just been being very glib, but you really care deeply for somebody and you finally admit it. On the 21st, we have the Winter Solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, summer in the Southern. That's powerful because the sun is going into a cardinal sign. So it's all about taking action, all about having things happen, initiating. And Jupiter and Saturn form that conjunction, the closest they've been in centuries. So, this is a very auspicious time, I feel. And in your particular case, this is affecting your 8th and 9th houses. So these are both houses that connect to God. If I had to figure out some connection there, they're both connected to the spiritual studies and just in general, the topics that relate to spirituality. The 8th house is more of that metaphysical angle, less structured like the 9th house. If you are, another thing too is, are you studying to be a lawyer, or are you already getting into that field, maybe with that 7th house, which is the house of legal matters, that you're actually starting to try cases. But at the time of this winter solstice, you do have the sense of optimism, maybe being very much enhanced with Jupiter and Saturn in that house of optimism, the 9th house. And meanwhile, you have the Sun and Mercury in the 8th house. And so that can be penetrative, and not taking things at face value. On the 29th, we have a full moon at 8 degrees of Cancer, which falls in your 2nd house. For many of you, this may actually fall in your 1st house. You have to look at that individual chart to make sure. But for those that it falls in the 2nd house, this could be like maybe you're retiring and you're getting a severance check, or maybe you're quitting your job. This could be like receiving money that was owed to you. If you are being laid off, then I suppose it could mean that too. It comes to a head, and it's like you've done all that you can in that field or that particular business. But it could be like getting some kind of royalty or some kind of payback, or I always forget how to say it. like a bonus or some sort of oh gosh.